Guys, Deluded Guna, YouTube's N'Golo Kante, Mr. Sauce on Spill. I'm back again, the best YouTuber at this when it comes to this football stuff. The others can rant and rave, I can talk calmly, and you still listen to what I have to say. I'm here to speak about Adebayor. Now, before I get into it, if you hear any celebrations, any noises, forgive me. Being the football addict I am, England's under-19s are playing the Faroe Islands. I still want to record videos. So at the corner of my eye, I'm looking at it. So yeah, if you hear any weird noises, it's because of that. But anyways, let's get back into Mr. Adebayor. Now, I've got the stats up here. 242 Premier League appearances, 97 goals, 36 assists. Now, that's not the best, but by considering where he came from and how much he cost Arsenal anyways, that's not the worst. That's a decent record, man. I'm sure you all remember his mad goal in 07 or 08 against Newcastle. That Spurs volley. He scored quite a couple decent finishes against Spurs, to be honest. Last time we won at Old Trafford, he was the scorer, or was it Gilberto Silva? Either way, it was one of them who scored that. You remember him scoring against Derby? Yeah, man, he's done a madness. He was someone that had a lot of qualities, and he typifies peak Wenger when it comes to finding players. When this guy signed in 06, I was in year 6. I was thinking, who's this guy with the Jerry Curls? He looks dead. He looks dead. Next season, he became mad. Now, before I go into the next, before I carry on, we need to hail up his abilities. He had technical ability that isn't going to get spoken about. Yeah, he's a good finisher. Not just with his head, but you saw him find the corners at ease, link up play. He had it all, man. There weren't much Adebayor couldn't do, man. I know if you look at the stats of Giroud looks better. Giroud looks better based on the stats, but Giroud can't talk to Adebayor in any department for me, man. This guy had the physical presence to match the technical qualities. It's a shame with the injuries, and we all know the sort of person he was. He was a bit outgoing. He didn't mix his words. Didn't have the best agents, so we know how his career went, man. Like I said, from 06 all the way after that first season, from like 07 to when did he leave? 09, 010, I believe. He was mad. He was destroying teams for us. He was doing his thing for us, man. You remember them epic games against Liverpool, whether it was in the League Cup or the Champions League. He was bagging goals there, man. He could even get involved in the link-up play of the Wenger ball, man. He was crazy. Let's look at his stats. 07, 08, 24 goals in the Premier League, 30 goals all comps. His best one to date. 08, 09, he got 10. That's his next best. For Arsenal, he's got 140. In 142 appearances, 62 goals, 22 assists. For Spurs, in 113 appearances, he's got 42 goals, 20 assists. I don't think that's right. For City, in 45 appearances, he got 19 goals and 6 assists. I must admit, doing the research of this, I looked at his Spurs record. I was like, there's a season you got 17 in the Prem at Spurs. Surely that's lies. Like, surely the Premier League website is lying. Now, forgive me if the stats are wrong, but you still know the points still stand. Adebayor was a guy, man. Like, he could have been. We can't be Arsenal legend. We use that term too often. But he could have been a serious fan favourite, man. He was 30. Yes, we made mad profit. What was he? Sold him for 25 mil or whatever. And City were going in a different place to us, and we should have won the league. This guy scored 24 goals in it, but it wasn't meant to be, man. He was a great player, man. He's someone whose controversy surrounded him throughout his whole career. If it's not at Arsenal, it's with several other antics. We all know, allegedly, someone at Lyon? I don't know who it was. And Adebayor, one person saying they done it. Adebayor saying he's never. Allegedly, he came with a bottle of gin and a cigar to a meeting with Lyon in regards to signing for them. Now, like I just said, we don't know how true that is or if it's false, man. But this guy's had a decent career, man. He's been decent. I think he could have had a much better career and been left in slightly more higher regard, especially in regards to the Premier League, if he was more of a certain kind. I mean, him and Van Persie typify where Wenger's gone wrong now. Wenger used to go for these talented players that are a bit, at times, rough around the edges in terms of their behaviour. Him and Adebayor and Van Persie, that they could both fall under that. And we haven't found that since, to be honest, man. If it's not with the club or with his club's officials he's falling out with, sadly he's falling out with family members over finances several times. He's actually even said family members have put judge on him for these injuries and things like that. Yeah, man, he is way more humble and down to earth than people give him credit for, and he might come across, man. I remember reading there was a time, I think he went back to Togo, and people were saying, you're too big to play football with us here, you're Adebayor. And then he said, I grew up in a house with no lights, with no lights, with no television, I'll never be too big for anything. And that's a real street guy, like that's a real guy that ain't forgotten where he's come from. I don't know. A side note, I don't know how this guy does it, but he was a real finesser, man. I'm sure City's still paying him. I'm sure we're still paying him. Monaco and Mets and them teams he played for initially probably still paying him. Spurs, he was only on loan there, probably still paying him. Madrid, probably still paying him. Like, this guy knows how to get this cash in. Palace, his little spell there, probably still paying him. Today in current market, he can be found in Turkey. I think he's made 15 appearances, 5 goals or something. I think he's even played in the Europa League. Do I tempt fate? I don't pay attention to Europa League apart from us really. So I don't know if his team are still in it or if it's the group stages or whatever. But yeah, that's it. In short, man, Adebayor was a great player, man, and I'm sure all Arsenal fans, regardless of how he was, if we just look at it on a footballing basis, it was somewhat unfulfilled promise to a degree. Like he really could have became a bit more prolific if he got his head down a bit more. Because if you look at his stats, he hasn't really bagged mad goals for as much as I'm talking his praises up often enough. And I don't think Giroud can talk to this guy if they both played in their peak or their prime. But when you look at the records, Giroud is a bit better. Now Giroud hasn't scored 20 in the league for Arsenal. I don't know for Montpellier and them things there. But yeah, but in short, Adebayor was a player I loved, man. He was a player I loved. He's someone I still hold in high regards. Yeah, and there were just more things that could have been done at this club if certain things didn't happen, if he were in a certain way, if our club wasn't going a certain way at the time because of the stadium and the selling club business. Yeah, man. There's not really that much more to be said on that, man. It's just someone asked me to speak about Adebayor. I've always been wanting to speak about him for a while. So, thought I'll go, man. I owe you fans that. So yeah, Deluded Gooner, I'm signing out. My take on Adebayor's over. Get in the comments, subscribe, do the rest. I'm out.